Dr Reena here. I'm a dental specialist and founder of RW Perio, located at 75 Harley Street. Welcome to my podcast, Life and Smile, where we talk about everything dental, lifestyle, business, and much more. Every episode, I'm joining conversation with a specialist expert in their chosen field, who give us a behind-the-scenes glimpse into their daily regime, career turning points, and an insider look at what they can't live without. As a businesswoman myself, it's so inspiring to hear how people have built their careers and shattered those glass ceilings. So let's get the conversation going. Dr Reena here, and a very warm welcome back to Life and Smile Season 6. Today we have a particularly inspiring episode in store for you, recorded right here in our Harley Street recording studio. We turn the conversation to beauty and wellness today, and of course everything in between, with a guest whose voice you will need no introduction to, as it's immediately recognisable from her brilliantly addictive podcast, Beautiful Lives. Madeleine Spencer, welcome to Life and Smile.
Thank you for having me.
So our listeners here on Life and Smile are a real 360 mix across the global dental industry, luxury, lifestyle, and across business. Here on the show, it's been so inspiring to hear the often contrasting day-to-day routines and how industry leaders really make it work on a day-to-day basis. But to start, let's talk us through those sort of early years of starting out and then how your career journey progressed.
Well, my entry into my career was quite haphazard. I was quite beset with agoraphobia and anxiety, which really affected how I got to where I am. So it was very apparent that I was going to be writing from when I was a teenager, and I thought, what should I write about? What should I do? I have no life experience. I've really got nothing to say. And as I got older, it just sort of became a thing that the urge to write was really there every single day. So I thought, right, I have to do something about this. So I did some internships. They were interesting and fun, and I learned a lot. But then the problem with being an agoraphobe is that you can't really leave your house. So that made it a bit more challenging for me. So I took a step back, really. I ended up working in a completely different field for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then I started a blog, and I thought the great thing about this is I can do it from home. And very quickly, actually, the daily discipline of doing it and the sort of purpose helped me quite a lot, actually, with the agoraphobia. And I started to freelance, and I took whatever I could, and I kept thinking, if the quality of work is high enough, it will get me to the next step. So just focus on what you've got in hand and doing the best you can with it and moving on to the next. And I've always felt like that. I'm sort of someone who just thinks, what's the next step and where do I go next? And that led me back really into the fold of journalism across lots of different spheres. And I've been in and out of publications. At the moment, I'm the beauty and wellness editor at The Standard, but sometimes I'm freelance, sometimes I'm in a place. To me, that doesn't matter so much. I like to work for somewhere good, obviously, but to me, the thing that matters is that I'm writing and I'm doing it frequently. And that seems to be absolutely integral to my happiness.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the fact that you said about just looking at like the next step rather than, because sometimes it can feel really overwhelming when you want to be somewhere and it's like, how do I even get there? So
Yeah.
Did you find that quite helpful in terms of just not overthinking the bigger picture and just looking at each small, step of the ladder?
Yeah, I think in a way it's quite good to be a little bit blinkered and definitely just think what's in front of me, because I think also when you look at other people's careers, it can be so intimidating and not actually very good for you to do that in the sense of, in a comparison sense. I think you have to just think, what's in front of me? What kind of life do I have? What kind of person am I? And also what options are there? Because you're never going to be able to manufacture the opportunities in your life that someone else had, particularly in a career that's not linear and you're not working through a company where it's obvious where you're going. When you're doing it yourself and you're an entrepreneur, or you're in a freelance profession, you are looking just at what you can do with what you have. So I think that, I just thought to keep my sanity, I will just do one step at a time.
Completely makes sense. So when it comes to beauty, what led you to have such a key interest in this topic across your work as both a journalist and podcaster?
I'm fascinated by beauty. I have been since I was young. I don't just mean the way people's faces look, although I am particularly interested in faces. But in architecture and art and everything, I think, as humans, we are lovers of beauty innately, and that may manifest differently in everyone. But to me, particularly in my household, which I grew up in the 80s, it was pretty glamorous. My mum was, in my view, the most beautiful person I'd ever seen, wearing blue eyeshadow and pink lipstick. And I just thought, I saw the alchemy that beauty, it was an extraordinary thing. So I'm walking into a room being beautiful. You look at them, you're interested in the way they look. And I know that when I look at people's faces, I'm a really big Elvis fan, so I love his face. And when I look at Elvis's face moving, I think this is extraordinary. It's like art. So it just was very interesting to me. And I thought it's such a daily thing. And in a way, like particularly with makeup, it's such a waste of time when you think about it. We put it on in the morning, we take it off in the evening. What the hell is the point? And yet so many people do it and love it. I do it nearly every day for the joy of it. And I'm fine with my bare face, but give me half an hour to put on makeup and I'm much happier. So I find it just compelling and interesting.
So it's the whole sort of 360 of beauty that you love, and the deeper meaning behind it, I guess.
Yeah.
So the media industry is constantly evolving, and as a journalist, you've been on the front row seeing how both the commercial and editorial landscapes have developed dramatically over the past decade. Everyone wants that sort of instant accessibility, fast-paced content. How do you ensure that your audience always stays engaged with everything you're doing?
I try to stay engaged myself. So I follow my own nose. I'm not going to be the right journalist for every reader. No one journalist is. But I think if people like the way that I do my little bit of journalism, then they'll stay with me as long as I'm engaged and excited by it. And I've not yet run out of excitement, which is astonishing. I've been doing this for years. But I mean, when we were just chatting now about gums, I suddenly thought, oh my God, I've never written about gums. There's so much to write about gums. So I do feel that. I feel intrigued by it. And if I'm excited by it, I think that's infectious to the people who, follow my work. So I really just try to keep that for myself and hope that bleeds out through the work.
For sure. Yeah, you need to be excited by it to ensure that you write well about it, and therefore the audience, for sure. In terms of communicating with your audience, are there any favorite questions that you like to cover or topics?
I really find actually really the 360, because I think that in terms of beauty, wellness, even lifestyle and happiness, and, it just keeps going and going. I think so many things come into that actually finding the little niche thing is really exciting. But on a personal level, I would just say makeup, because it's so transformative so quickly. And I'm still desperately excited when a pot of glitter shows up and I just want to stick my fingers in it and put it on my face. So makeup, really.
And in terms of any kind of latest features or projects that really stood out for you on your platform or had a big impact, could you think of any examples of those? Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm always excited when it does well, and my editors go to me, oh, lots of people read that, is when it's something that's a bit more wellnessy, like supplements or what people should be doing, because I don't think that's innately that exciting, but I think it's really important. And then on a more, for me personally, because I really, really love writing so enormously, when it's something where I've written it and I've enjoyed the writing process. So I recently wrote something about doing your makeup in a taxi, and I wrote it just enjoying the topic. And I really felt that sense of enjoyment when I was writing it. And when I read it back after, I was like, you can tell I'm having a bit of a laugh here. It wasn't po-faced. It was just quite jaunty. And then my editor, Harriet, sent me a message saying, well, I love this. And I thought, yeah, that's great. And then if people like that, then I'm so happy. That's when those things fly, that's job done. Yeah, I'll have to read that one. Sounds really fun. Looking back at sort of everything you've done so far and the steps you've taken, if you had to sort of give some advice to your younger self or someone starting up in this career, what would you say to them? Because obviously the landscape has changed dramatically, but what are the kind of core things that have helped you be so successful? I think obviously working hard, which everyone knows, but not, I mean, you've still got to have a life, but, right. Apply yourself to it. Remember why you want to do it. I think particularly with journalism, it's poorly paid and you work hard. And, not everyone, many people want to do it. So it's competitive. When you are steering yourself through that landscape, I think you have to remember in your gut why you wanted to do it. There will be a reason. And I think sticking to your guns on that is really important. And then it's all the usual things like being as polite, while still working towards what you want. Caring about what you do, caring about people that you work with. And I probably think one of the things that's really helped me is just
going still. I've had real setbacks. I've had real knockbacks. I've had people go, no, absolutely not, shut doors in my face. And also, I mean, in my industry, there's a bit of sometimes snobbery. I'm not sure if it still is as much there for younger people, but certainly when I was starting. And I just kept going. I think, everyone knows a lot of entrepreneurship or a lot of doing your own thing is being knocked back and getting up again. And so that's why I think having that inner sense of why you're doing it is good, because then you have the impetus to get up again. Whereas if you're not into it, you might just stay on the floor, which is perfectly fine too, but then maybe don't do that job.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's loads of advice there. With the ones about your setbacks, so was it, I mean, yes, of course, you knew why you were doing it, but even then it's still quite like sometimes disheartening and, what kept you going though?
I mean, I did all the usual things, cried, whinged, phoned a friend, banged on about it. And then I just thought, the thing is, there's just this thing in me that has to, I don't know who I would be without writing. I write and then I figure out who I am from there. So, and irrespective to some extent of what I'm writing about, it's just a strong discipline for me. So I have to do it. And I write in diaries every day. I could just do that. I did for years. I did just write diaries, which I don't think I could ever publish. But, that's theirs.
Do you ever go back and read those? That must be amazing.
One of my friends recently read to me in the garden laughing. He was desperately amused by my 18-year-old self.
Wow.
It was horrendous. So that one, I mean, like, if I were choosing to publish, I think I'd go for the later ones, not the 16, 17-year-old. Awful. But yes. So just having to do that, having to write, really meant that I was like, I don't really have much of a choice. It's like getting up after you've had a breakup. Like, you're really upset about it, but you have to still brush your teeth and eat some food and get on with life.
Do you feel like sometimes those setbacks actually helped you to get to where you are today? Because obviously when you're in it, you're like, gosh, everything's going wrong. But when you look back, you're actually like, I'm glad that happened.
Do you know what? There was one in particular with a very famous writer who I went to see for advice, and they were quite unpleasant to me. Quite belittling, quite sort of, I would say arrogant, and I was really upset by it. And they sort of said to me something like, well, how much did you write this morning? It was like, midday. And I said, oh, well, I was coming to this. So basically I fannied around being nervous. And they were like, and you're a writer? And I came away from that. I cried for about a night. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm never going to be a writer. That's all I want to be. And then I thought, I'm going to take out the expletives. I thought to myself, well, I'll show you. And that gave me a massive kick up the backside. And I really, really then thought, actually, you know what? No one can take this away from me. And I remember, lots of people know this quote, but when Oscar Wilde once said something like I'm going to paraphrase, but the real riches can't be taken away from you, right? And I feel like the thing that's inside you that makes you feel, fizzy and excited and engaged with life is the thing you need to protect. And actually, to some extent, people can't really take away from you. They can maybe dull your flame for a little bit, but once they've done that, it comes back. And I remember thinking, actually, fine, you tried to take this, or maybe he didn't try and take it away from me. Maybe he was trying to inspire me, but I felt for a very short time that he had taken something away from me. And then I thought, you can't take that away from me. That's mine. That's me. And it pushed me. So yes, that was a good one. It was hard, but it was good.
Wow, I love that. I think it's, when you reflect, you realize how important those lessons are, for sure.
Absolutely.
Is there, what inspires you? Do you have like a mentor or someone, another writer, or what keeps you going? Because, all your work is amazing and you're always enthusiastic. So what drives your energy every day?
Other writers, yes. Not especially, some journalists, absolutely. I love Polly Vernon. She's fantastic. There are a couple of people at the Standard who their writing style I absolutely love. So I think to myself, well, I've got to reach that bar. And I read a lot of literature. I read a lot of old literature, particularly Victorian literature. Wow. And I enjoy it and it excites me. And like, I recently was reading a book by Margarita Lasky, who was a really interesting writer in the 50s, I think she started. And she wrote this phrase, very simple, but she said, we either did it separately or in concert. And I thought, what a lovely use of in concert. And I thought, and that excited me again. I thought, actually, there's so many possibilities with English. So reading is the really fundamental thing. And then it just sort of goes from there. And it's like having, a bunch of crayons in my head that want to colour. Yeah.
Do you have, like, with your day, do you have a set time where you'll, do your writing, do your reading, podcast? Like, do you have, like, a daily routine, or every day is different?
I wish I had I love a routine. I'm really into a routine. I was once in a feature in the Times about my routine when it was really, like, settled. It's not as routine now. There are fundamentals. More around my personal, I want to say, like, hygiene routine. I'm someone who likes to, take my bacteria, do my teeth, clean my face. So that kind of stuff is my framework. The work side of it is a bit all over the place, because every day is slightly different. But every day involves writing. Every day, I mean, even really at the weekend involves a little bit of writing. It always involves a bit of social media, and I chat a lot to people who follow me, which I love. They're all fascinating, so we have a little chat. There are components, but I'm not overly structured in how I'm not like a Tuesday is a writing day, Wednesday is I can't do that because the job is too mixed.
So you see sort of what's coming up, and I guess is a lot of it like with the creative side, it's like it's sort of vibes led, like how you feel, if you feel like writing or feel like doing a podcast, or it must be. With
writing, I have to, I've made that my job. So that happens all the time, and that's a sort of fluid relationship. But with writing outside of journalism and more creative writing, that sometimes just pops up, and I think, I've just got to quickly write that down somewhere. But it's sort of, I've got reams of that now, and I do need to think about what to do with that. But that's more like as and when. It tends to happen, as everyone knows, your best ideas happen when you're not near a pen and paper.
100%, yeah. When you're in the shower.
In the shower, in the bath,
yeah. Absolutely. Do you still write your diary every day then, or is it as and when?
Not every day. I actually interviewed for my podcast the singer Freya Ridings, and she writes every day. And we were talking about this a lot, and I said, I used to, but now sometimes I get into bed and I'm so tired. So I will update it with significant things or put in like emotional little moments. Yeah. I do try to basically my diary is like a friend that I'm updating on my life. So I'll sometimes be like, we haven't spoken in a while. And I'll think, I'll just put something in there.
Yeah. No, that's nice. And it must be fun reading it back as well.
I mean, I try not to. But yeah.
And then in terms of sort of off-duty, how do you relax? What's your favourite spots in London, or perhaps more globally?
Yeah, well, I love Reformer Pilates, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say, but I do. I love doing that, so I do that down the road, and that's really exciting for me. And then I walk to Planet Organic, and I get a CBD oil coffee. It's so intensely niche, but I love it. My dad has a restaurant on Westbourne Grove. It's been there for years.
Nice.
So if I'm partying, it's a quite late night place. So if I'm partying or I'm having a birthday party soon, I will have it down there. That's kind of where I go.
What's the name?
It's called Tiroler Hut.
Yes,
it's an Austrian underground. My dad, who's
very nice.
86, is still the musician every night.
Amazing.
So it's quite bananas, fun. I love it down there. And globally, if you said to me, like, where do you go to completely chill out? And it is kind of a workplace, but, where do I go? Where do I choose to go? It's the Maya Life Clinic in Altasse. It's so beautiful. They give you a good medical routine. I mean, for some people it would be hell. For me, it's absolute heaven. They send you to bed at like 9:30. You eat next to nothing. The doctors massage your stomach and give you, laxatives and things. And you feel great by the end of it. So just to re-energize, that's where I go.
Amazing. One of my favourite questions that we always ask our guests is 3 things we can always find at your desk as part of your mini survival kit. What would they be?
They would be, so on my desk, oddly, I say, I like perfume a lot. Right. And the one that makes me feel like my work is beginning is the Cosmos Sacred Mist. And actually, one of my editors, Susanna Ramsdale, had that on her desk.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of like a sort of herbal smell. It's quite intriguing. And I just spray it around me and think, okay, day's begun.
It is so interesting how smells change everything. Everything, the way you think. And
And you just feel like it's sort of like the commencement. So I use perfume like that.
Right.
So if I'm going on a night out, sort of the last thing I do is the perfume. If I'm going to a meeting, the last thing I do is the perfume, and I always sort of choose it for the event. I also have a Mortram Milk, which is, so Pam, who owns Mortram Milk, is my go-to facialist. She's really, really good. And she makes a lip complex, and it's a really like thick, lovely lip balm that doesn't feel too much, and it doesn't smell weird. It doesn't smell of anything actually, and it does the job. So I always have that on my desk, and I always have a hand cream. At the moment, it is the Gatineau Massive one. I like them to be quite moisturizing.
Yes.
And I don't understand people who don't use hand cream.
Yeah.
I hate my hands being dry. So if I'm sitting looking at an email and just having a moment of thinking what I need to do, I'll just moisturize my hands, put on my lip balm.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a routine.
Love it.
Yeah.
No, we're constantly washing our hands. So hand cream is a must in the clinic.
Or do you have a favorite?
I just like to try out different ones, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I will give you our lip balm today.
Oh,
so
go on.
so you
exciting.
can see what you think of that.
Yes,
maybe
I'd
have
love
it on
to
your
try
desk as well. Madeleine, thank you so much. What are the latest things coming up? Where can our listeners find you?
Well, I have a podcast which I do update periodically. So it's this interview series called Beautiful Lives, where I examine beauty themes with a guest. So that will be out next year. There'll be more episodes of that. Nice. I'm always on Instagram. I'm someone who updates that quite regularly, like my diary. Yeah. So I'll just be like, this is what I've done today. Here it is. So pretty much Instagram, and of course at the Standard and in freelance work.
Amazing. Thank you so much for such an inspiring conversation.
Thank you for having me.